All right. Hello, hello. If you can hear me, let me know. Where's my sound? Looks like it's working. Let's see if I can get John on the line here. How am I going to get this microphone to stop going that way? Don't do that. Okay, let's get John. Do I call him? Does he call me? All right. Let's see if this works.
Howdy.
All right. We're live already.
Hello, everyone.
I'm not sure if anyone's here yet, but just want to let you know. I said the announcement was that we were both having good hair days, so we decided to go live.
Well, now I got headphones on.
Headphone head. I wanted to try something because we started recording this last time.
Yeah.
And so this is, you can't see this, John, but actually I wonder if I can. That's the one thing this live recording thing doesn't have, is the ability for you to kind of easily see what I'm doing. But I kind of want to show you too. Let me see if I can do this. Except that means I have to figure out how to share my screen on Skype, which is the worst.
Uh-oh. Yeah, the interface is tough.
All right, so this is our conversation from last time. And what I wanted to try was show in Finder. Okay, and then okay, first I got to convert this to MP3. Oh, my computer's really slowing down here. People are going to be like complaining. So this is my little convert to MP3 thing, utility I use. So I'm just going to drag this in. And then I'm going to convert it to MP3. By the way, if you do join the chat, just say hi. I'm not sure where you're at, but if you're anywhere and you can hear us. Yeah, and I've got till 5:30. I've got about 45 minutes here.
All right. Works for me.
But I think this is kind of interesting for folks. What is this here? Oh, okay. So I'm going to convert this thing. It's almost done. 77, 78. And then I'm going to drag it into Descript. And
are you going to try to see if this works?
And try to basically, Descript is this thing that does transcriptions on the fly. Because I guess the question I was thinking in my head is, should we start over because we were 8 minutes in and try to recapture some of the magic? Because now you've got a better mic. It's going to be, is it going to be too different?
Maybe the magic is gone.
Maybe the magic's gone. But maybe we have to do it anyway. Maybe just to get back, in the groove. Anyway, this is all for people who have never seen this before. This is what Descript looks like. I've got 13 hours free now because everyone keeps clicking on my link. So thank you everyone who keeps clicking on my link. But anyway, this is amazing. It just does transcription on the fly. We'll see how fast this goes, but then I can send it to you and you can.
We'll see how close it gets. Yeah. I haven't tried. I wonder if the Amazon service is any better these days. I know it's probably improving a lot just because they probably, whatever machine learning, yada, yada, yada keywords they use. But it was kind of funny when I did it last time.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, this one's pretty accurate. And yeah, so I'm digging it. Last time I did a live chat, the folks' chats didn't show up, and that was really disappointing. I'm just going to check on it quick. But I can't even remember what we were talking about. Where is this? Episode 29. Here's our paper. Are you in there too?
Yeah. I'm in there.
Yeah.
Well, am I? Yeah, I'm in there.
Yeah, this is kind of our responses to. I think we should start again, and if we feel like, you know what, we gotta put some other stuff in.
Because I just finished listening to your podcast from Mega Maker.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's in my head. Maybe that's like a next week episode. I have an idea for that.
Well,
I have an idea for that, but
sometimes you just gotta go. Maybe we just gotta scrap the old one.
But now I'm like looking at this and trying to think about the other one, and I had a long day at work, and whew.
You know, I mean, what would be cool is if we just do that 8 minutes we recorded just for Patreons. Supporters, like that's like the lost episode. Because we were kind of on fire there.
Yeah, but we could go back into that. I mean, I think next week I was, I don't know. I was thinking we could talk about. I had this idea even before I listened to your thing about like how we got here. So we sort of we sort of talked a little bit about that at the beginning, I think, but just like our road to how we got to where we are now. Yeah, right. Because your Mega Maker episode is sort of about, it's your own journey, it's your own story. Mm-hmm. Everyone's is different, and like, I mean, mine's all over the place. I'm sure yours is too.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. Like our origin stories, you mean?
Right, and then it got me thinking to our conversation XOXO that one night about just like growing up in the '80s and like,
oh yeah,
fooling around with BBSs and video games and all that stuff. So
yeah, no,
could be fun. Really doesn't have much to do with Transistor, but
no, I think that would be rad. Here's the transcription. I just put it in Slack, or I'm trying to. Is it gonna work? Oh, it might be too long. Oh, it's 2007 characters, too long.
Oh.
It did get some stuff incorrect because the last line is something about a teddy.
Oh.
So it's not quite right. But anyway, I'll invite you here. This will probably be way more of a distraction than it's worth. But that's the whole thing on the fly, whole description.
Where are you posting it?
I just put it in paper. I just invited you to it.
Cool.
Gilles Craig says it's interesting you are using Dropbox Paper over Google Docs. And I can't remember. Oh, we fell into that because we're using Zoho for our email.
Right.
So, yeah, folks.
Yeah, we don't have a Google Apps account because it costs money.
We're really, really cheap. Okay. Yeah, let's just start and then start the episode and then kind of go from there. I'm just testing chat on Periscope here. Oh yeah, it does work. Hey folks, if you're on Periscope, give us some hearts in the chat so we know that you're there. Okay. When you're ready, let's do the intro again, and then we'll do Patreon shout-outs, and then, kind of go from there.
Well, ready? Hey, everyone. Welcome to Build Your SaaS. This is the behind-the-scenes story of building a web app in 2018. I'm John Buda, a software engineer.
And I'm Justin Jackson. I'm a product and marketing guy. Follow along as we build Transistor.fm and Spots.fm. I like that reminder to build Spots.fm.
Yeah, that's a thing that we keep thinking about. I have your sketch you drew me.
Yeah.
In Portland with me.
On the back of a napkin.
Yeah, it's some piece of paper. I don't know what it is actually.
Yeah, it's not quite a napkin. It's true.
Some piece of paper we found. Yeah.
So this is our second try doing this episode. We had one. Was it yesterday we were recording? And
yeah, I got booted out of a room, and I couldn't find another one. And then I had another meeting, And so here we are again, starting over.
Here we are again. And we were actually kind of on fire in that episode, so we were debating whether we were going to include it or not include it. At the very least, I think we'll post it for our Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
Who are, this is good, that's called a segue.
It's a good segue.
We have Kevin Markham, we have Adam Duvander, and David, Junta?
Junta, you got it.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much to those folks. This Patreon thing's been a real kind of surprise. We just put the link into... Well, Transistor has a special place to put a Patreon link. And how does it work again? Some players will show a special icon.
Yes. So at the least, Overcast will show a $ icon in the interface if you're listening to an episode that has a special HTML tag in the show notes. And I also noticed if you look at our show notes in Overcast, the actual link that says support us on Patreon is green.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I noticed that too.
And I don't know if any other players also support that. Maybe they'll pick up on it and start doing it.
Yeah, I've heard Breaker is going to.
Okay.
Let me just take a look here on my phone. Maybe I can show it to folks as they're... This will just appear on the video, but if you are on Overcast right now, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see there's a green link in there in your show notes, in the show notes for the show. And, it's kind of a cool thing that Marco's done. I just started my own personal Patreon, and it's been really interesting. I did it because I just wanted to experiment with it. It was something that I saw other people using, and I always kind of wrote it off. But lately I've been thinking, no matter what happens in my life, I want to keep writing and I want to keep podcasting. So if Transistor works out, great. I want to do that.
Yeah.
If this makes $1 billion, that's great, but no matter what, I want to keep writing and I want to keep podcasting. And in order to do that for a long time and to be able to do it vulnerably and honestly, I was like, I should try Patreon out because that just seems like the place where people support the content that they love, right?
Sounds fair. Yeah, give it a shot. It's been going well, though.
And, well, it's been surprising. I mean, it's just like anything else. I think you have to it's not something that you turn on, even for someone like me that has, I've got a fair-sized audience. It's not something that just, all of a sudden I'm making $20,000 a month on Patreon. But so I'm expecting it to build over time. But as I was thinking about it, I was like, man, what's interesting about Patreon, because I support people on Patreon as well, is it feels different than Kickstarter, even though they're both crowdfunding.
Yeah.
For example, I supported this band. There's this old punk rock band called MXPX, and I supported their Kickstarter. And it was like, I'm glad that I supported it. I wanted the album to come around. And so the album, it was a Kickstarter for their album. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, I would love to support the band on Patreon because I kind of just want to be an insider. I got their album, I could have downloaded their album as a part of the Kickstarter, but I never did because I can just listen to it on Apple Music. I don't care about that as much. What I care about is, I want kind of the inside look into their life, into their business, into their music. And if there was a way for me to support them monthly and kind of get that look and get, support them in an ongoing way, I think I would. And that seems to be kind of the advantage of Patreon.
Yeah.
You get this, I mean, everyone manages it differently, but you get this kind of behind the scenes look. So
yeah, and I've never been in a band, but it seems like at a certain point, Patreon, I mean, if they were making a certain amount of money, then they wouldn't, it sounds like being in a band is this grind of touring and releasing an album and recording and maybe not making that much money on an album.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it would lessen some of that, and they could kind of support themselves and record their music a little more freely.
Yeah, totally.
Who knows? But yeah.
I think all of this stuff, I mean, obviously with you and I building Transistor, I've been thinking about all of these things more and more, and really, it's all crowdfunding. Like
yeah.
you're always getting your funding from somewhere, and sometimes it's customers and investors. Sometimes it's just investors. Sometimes it's it's all crowdfunding, and I don't know. Maybe in the past I had this idea of like, Patreon. That's just like, for donating to things. And I'm realizing now that it's actually a lot more than that. And, like there's this one comic I support on Patreon. And I'm paying to get the comic, but I'm paying for like this whole other experience as well. And I'm also paying because I just want to see his good work continue, right?
Yeah.
But that's no different than you or I paying for like a mobile app that we really like.
No, it just probably more of it goes to the creator. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. I think that's the point, I suppose.
That's the point. Like at the end of the day, people are producing work, whether it's an app or software or writing or music. And we as the customer are paying so that the good work continues. People always get upset when their favorite app gets acquired and shut down. We're always like, man, why couldn't you just ask me to pay? Because I would way rather you continue than not. And likewise, I have some writers that if I knew they were going to stop writing, I would be like, okay, well, we got to figure this out because I want the good work to continue, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, hello, folks. I just want to say hi to the people listening and watching live. There's one fellow is listening on the road, and always nice to see people showing up live.
Nice.
Okay, so that's Patreon. Yeah, really interesting. I thought we would go into this episode the responses we got to the last episode where we talked about the one metric that matters. And there's a few different responses to that episode. And, oh, man, Chris, just erase that last part. I'm trying to think of how I can jump into this here. Patreon. Oh yeah, I was talking about last time we got into this whole other piece. Yeah. Okay, so last week we talked about the one metric that matters, and we were thinking that maybe our one metric for Transistor is MRR.
Yeah, I think that's where we ended up.
And there's some people that responded to that episode that said, maybe that shouldn't be our one metric. For example, Adam Wathen sent me a message and said, I wonder if MRR is a little bit of a cop-out for you folks because, that, of course, you're a software as a service business. You want to increase monthly recurring revenue. And that's what every web application wants to do, right?
Yeah.
And so he thought we should focus on increasing downloads because we're a podcast application and what our customers want is downloads. And so if we make that our North Star metric, the one thing that we're trying to increase every month, in his mind, more downloads means more success for our customers, means more, potentially more customers for us, etc.
Yeah.
What do you think about that idea?
I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, it doesn't necessarily correlate into more customers, I don't think, but it could. I mean, it depends. If we have one like runaway hit that uses our service, then our downloads are going to spike, and that's not necessarily good for us. I mean, considering bandwidth is our number one expense, but yeah, right. It is a nice. It could be a good metric to focus on. I mean, it's a number you can see grow. It's a graph you can see increase over time. Mm-hmm. It obviously means if it's going up or maybe like averages per month go up, not necessarily total downloads, but averages per month go up. It means that there's more people listening and there's probably more episodes, which means there's more customers.
That's right. Yeah, and those are kind of the things I said too.
Right.
On one hand, that could be true, like if we increase downloads, but, we have some customers that, they could increase their downloads quite a bit and it wouldn't result in more revenue. And so I'm not sure. It's tricky. It'd be interesting, what companies like Vimeo and Wistia, who are in the video business, what they use.
Mm-hmm.
There's someone in the live chat here that's saying, maybe look at the dynamics that occurred with, he's saying vid.me. I'm not familiar with them, but there's other businesses out there that are similar to ours in the video hosting space, in the, obviously there's lots of podcast hosts, but also in the web hosting space. They're all similarities. And so there might be something we could look at there. By the way, if you are in the video hosting space and you have some insights for us, reach out. My DMs are open. M.I. Justin on Twitter. The letter M, the letter I, Justin. So, yeah, because it is tricky. And the one problem is that you don't really know what's going on with those other companies. And so on the outside, they could look really successful, but on the inside, they could be like, we have this one really popular show, and it costs us so much money in bandwidth, and we're not making any money on it, and it's really stressful.
Yep. Yeah, that could happen. Some of them, I mean, we're obviously bootstrapping this, but some of them might have funding, and they can just push for that number, not really worry about it for a while, and hope that increasing a certain number of downloads or whatever it may be ends up generating customers, and then they can cash out and sell their customer base and then shut the service down or whatever. But yeah, that's a tricky one.
Yeah. This vid.me that someone just suggested in the chat. If you go to that page, it says goodbye for now. It says VidMe has moved on to another dimension, and it sounds like the problem they ran into is that they used too much bandwidth, and so they just couldn't compete.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's to some extent a race to the bottom of giving away as much as you can while charging less and less money. Mm-hmm. So you're competing with, YouTube and Vimeo and these large companies that, are either public or well-funded or profitable. I mean, Vimeo, I think they're still private, right?
I'm not sure. It's actually, it's aroused my curiosity because I want to go like check that out now. How is Vimeo doing? What are they doing? Are they? Yeah, I can't remember if they're private. Wistia might be private. I think maybe it was Wistia that just did a buyback.
Oh, maybe
a debt buyback. I think. Yeah, video startup Wistia to buy out investors with $17 million in debt. Just happened. So yeah, that's what Ben is saying here in the chat too. Yeah, they just bought their investors out. So, wow. There's all sorts of different models, and it's why you can't really look at your customer, your competitors, because who knows? Who knows how well Libsyn is doing or any of those other competitors we have?
Right.
We don't know.
We can guess. We can say, oh, they've been around a long time. They probably have a lot of customers. But who knows? I don't know what their financials are. They have probably a large team.
Yeah. And the other thing we don't have in podcasting is there are no publicly traded podcast hosting companies. I don't think there is anyway.
No, I don't think so.
And so we can't look at the financials.
Right.
So anyway, that I love it when people reach out after shows. Like Adam was just like, hey, I think he wanted to push back against these things that we were saying. Wait, someone's saying Libsyn is public. No way. I don't know about this. I'm going to... Oh, wait, they are public.
Really?
They're on the stock exchange. What the heck?
Oh, kidding.
Okay, we got to check into this. This is the advantage of real time. People can check our facts for us. This is
liberated syndication.
Yeah, they're public. So we should be able to see their financials then.
I think so, yeah.
All right, well, we're going to do that. Maybe not live here on the podcast, but their stock price is $1.64. Crazy.
Huh. I had no idea. I wonder when they filed for that.
Yeah.
So we can find that out too.
Yeah, we'll find that out. We'll report back. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm reading an article here, but I don't want to make too many assumptions live.
All right.
But that is cool. We will be able to check out their revenue reports and everything.
Yeah, cool.
Love it. Okay. Well, thanks for that insight. That is perfect. So anyway, that I do appreciate it when people message us after and give us some pushback and say, have you thought about this? Maybe you're not, maybe MRR shouldn't be your one true metric. And maybe Adam's right. Like maybe it shouldn't be, but on the other hand, maybe downloads shouldn't be our metric either. We also had feedback from Daniel, who said, Justin should just get out and sell. So
start the marketing machine up.
He's like, come on, Justin, you lazy ass. You should be pulling your weight. And so let me just try to synthesize this. If you want to increase your numbers, you've got to turn on the selling machine. Use your network to get into big companies and find the people who are in charge of PR. Sell them on the idea of podcasting, not on podcast hosting. Guide them through how to start up a podcast, what kind of equipment they should use. Teach them about content, how to market their podcast, where to host your podcast is such a trivial thing. That's not the barrier to entry. By the way, I agree with you so far, Daniel. My hypothesis is that companies like IBM or Microsoft or even Procter & Gamble have never even thought about having a podcast. They are old and outdated. That's actually incorrect. We know there are entire companies like Pacific Content that are doing work with all of those companies to help them produce branded podcasts.
Yeah.
So, and this is the tricky part is, and they are the ones who are, well, we had an interesting conversation with Dan Meisner about this very thing. John Buddha almost didn't make it through this conversation.
Yeah, my introversion was catching up with me. I needed to go sit in a corner.
But Dan has a lot of experience producing content for big brands. And I asked him, I said, what kind of brands are you working with? It is all the big brands. All the big brands are thinking about podcasting. And partly because it's a hot topic right now, partly because, a lot of PR people are thinking about it. A lot of management and CEOs are listening to shows. So it is that the wheels are turning in corporate America.
I think it's still a relatively inexpensive advertising method.
That's right.
Compared to their other multi-million-dollar campaigns.
That's right. One thing Dan did say, though, is this kind of education that Daniel is talking about here, where you're trying to go out and convince them to sell them on the idea of podcasting. The problem with that, according to Dan and other people I've talked to, is if these people are not already in motion, if there's not someone on their team that has already decided that we are going to start a podcast, that is a very difficult road for you as a singular entity to go out and try to convince people to start something that they didn't even know they wanted 5 minutes ago, especially if they're not already into podcasts.
Yeah, and especially if the thing you're selling isn't, we're not selling a terribly expensive product. So I feel like the time that you would put into selling a company on starting a podcast and hosting with us, you'd have to sell something else. Otherwise, it would not. I don't think it'd be worth your time.
Yeah. We would have to get into production, which we're not opposed to anything, but there is a. Well, now I'm going to have to think of this article. I think it's a Paul Graham essay. When next time John Buddha talks, I'll look this up on the internet. But basically, the idea is the more things you add to your company, the more things that you do, the more difficult your business model becomes. So one of the reasons from the beginning I was interested in splitting Spots and Transistor is I want them to be two separate companies that have to stand on their own legs. We don't want Transistor to get too complex. And if Spots is ever going to be a business, then it has to stand on its two legs too.
Right.
And the more things you add, if you say, well, now we're in podcast production. Well, now we're in podcast advertising. Well, now we're also in, if you add too many things, especially early on, that can be a recipe for disaster. And we know, like Panoply in the podcast news just got out of content distribution, and they're doubling down on dynamically inserted ads. They've got software that does that. On the flip side, MailChimp, which has been around forever and has made a lot of money, they are now rebranding as a total marketing company that's not just going to do email. What did you think of that rebrand, by the way?
I thought it was interesting. It was I didn't read their whole white paper, but I liked it. They're always doing something different.
Yeah. Although Kyle Fox, I think Kyle Fox was the one who said there's a lot of similarities between postmarkapp.com and the new MailChimp. The yellow is almost identical if you look at both of them.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
They're pretty similar. So we don't need to split hairs over that, but
right.
Yeah. So all of this to say, we are thinking about some of that stuff, and the one thing that Daniel's message to me did kind of inspire. I think I got this on LinkedIn, actually. I actually checked LinkedIn and got a chat message there. The one thing it did inspire me to think about was, I think I could set some, and we talked about this a bit in the episode, but I could set some targets to say, let's try to get, 5 new customers a day, or 5 new trials a day, or what have you. So this is funny. Ben is saying just about this Postmark MailChimp thing. He's saying we have a yellow website as well, so now we have to go back to the drawing board.
Oh no.
Only one company can use that color. To be fair, our yellow is a little bit more orangey.
It's true.
If you folks, this is your homework. I want you to go to MailChimp.com. I want you to go over to our friends at PostmarkApp.com, and then I want you to go to Transistor.fm. The Transistor FM yellow, it is ours. No one else can take that. Let me grab the. I'm just gonna grab my color picker here. It is FBC75D. We own that.
I forget what, our Dylan, our designer that helped out here, he named it something.
Oh, really? We have our own, like the hue.
I believe he did. Hold on, I got it here.
All right, I'll keep yakking.
Or
maybe not.
Hot mic.
Hot mic. Hot mic. Is it hot mic yellow?
Hot mic yellow. Like, yeah.
Nice.
Not like microphone.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. All the colors are named after recording related words. Hot mic, we got blackout, which is our like bluish, blackish color. Light gray, that's whatever. On air, live wire, ultraviolet. Yeah.
Sweet. That was actually a good investment. That was one of the.
Yeah.
This was expensive, but we have a whole style guide that Dylan did for us. Like.
Yeah, it was good, but it was, it's you give someone the power and the sort of freedom to just go take your idea and do what they want with it, which is ultimately going to be much different than what you thought about.
Yeah. I'm trying to find Dylan's Instagram. Is it Exploding Desk? No.
No.
What is it? I'll find it later, but there's he's done great work for us.
Yeah, we got some good stuff in here that we
I'll
haven't
put it
used
in the
yet.
show notes. All right, so that's that was Daniel's response, and yeah, I think I could start giving myself some personal goals to increase the number of customers we get every month.
I think your concern with that earlier was, are we ready to do that?
Yeah.
Like, we're getting customers and it's a lot of word of mouth, but are we ready to really like push for that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, ready, is the platform ready? Are we ready to support those customers with, customer support? And I think that's still an open-ended question.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's tension between all of these things. And so on one hand, it's great getting all this feedback and insight and ideas from folks who are listening right now. But on the other hand, there's always, on this side of the microphone, there's all of these other tensions. And it's difficult as someone who's building a company to know, when are you just being wrong? And when are you actually just responding in a correct way to the reality as it is?
Right.
I don't know. If you've got an idea about that, let us know.
I don't. Oh, I don't. I don't know if the audience does. Yeah, it's more MMR, more customers, more downloads would be great, but that's going to lead to more support requests.
Yeah.
And I think there's things we could smooth out to to make the app a little simpler and more straightforward, so we get less support requests. But
yeah. It's hard to figure all this stuff out.
It is.
By the way, we just crossed 2 major milestones. One, over 6 million downloads on Transistor so far.
Nice.
That is incredible. John, if we had $1 for every download we got on Transistor,
we would. Yeah, that'd be great.
We would have $6 million. That's what we got to figure out. How can we get $1 every time someone downloads a podcast?
I'm not sure that would take off. Who would pay for that?
There's probably, I mean, the other thing I was thinking about today, this is a complete aside, is businesses that sell credits and reloadable credits are brilliant. Do you have the Starbucks app on your phone?
I do not.
Okay. I don't even go to Starbucks. Well, I do. Starbucks is not my primary coffee shop. Let me say that. This, I got to be careful about how much I show, but this app on my phone reloads every time I drop below $25. And it's just kind of, once you're in the habit of using it, I use it when I travel at airports and things like that. It's just a no-brainer. And when it reloads, I'm not thinking like,
right.
Oh, well, it's like a subscription that's based on usage.
But they're sitting on your money all the time, and they're making money on that money.
Well, but it reloads automatically. So
right.
It's got some of the benefits of SaaS. But and there's other businesses like this too, like Postmark. I think they do. Let's look at their pricing. So you get a certain amount of emails per month, and then price per extra emails. So they're kind of like a combination of both. What other credits are there? Credit company.
So there's a lot of games that do that, but they do it in a sneaky way where you have to buy packages of credits, but nothing you can buy in a game is the same price or like divisible by the same amount. So you always have leftover credits, and then you have to buy more credits. It's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You buy 2,000 credits, and something costs like 1,500 credits, and then there's nothing that costs 500 credits.
Yeah.
But there's something that costs 600 credits.
Yes. Yeah, like every single iOS game made for children.
Yeah, I mean it's smart, but it's tricky.
Did I tell you about the time I spent $350 on Smurf berries?
No, it sounds like you're doing drugs, but I don't know.
I didn't spend this, but back when the iPad was new, we had the first, the first iPad. There was that Smurf game. And they didn't have any protections for buying, in-app purchases.
Yeah.
And my son, who was, 6 or 7, bought $350 worth of Smurf berries. Because to him, it was just, I just push this button and I keep getting Smurf berries.
Yeah, he doesn't, yeah.
Oh my God. I called Apple about it and got them to refund it. The same thing happened to Jack Black, actually. He tells a story on one of those late nights. Theme Forest, that is one where that's another example of a service product where you've got to buy credits. So you buy X number of, you do a deposit into your wallet, and then you use that money to buy, website templates and things like that.
Yeah, I mean it's almost like a subscription or it's like a funding method essentially.
Mm-hmm. There's something about credits. Because in some cases I don't like it. Some people in the comments here are saying I don't like that system. But like this Starbucks app is really convenient. It's just convenient to have it reload. And so I don't mind it so much. And then instead of, I use this primarily for business and travel. And so when I'm doing my expense statements, instead of having to do expense reports for $2 coffees, it's just one bulk payment, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just an aside. Okay, let's get back to the feedback we got here. So quite a few folks said we should re-examine our pricing. Remember I told you we were going to talk about this on the podcast?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because we had like a 45-minute conversation before we recorded.
Yeah, and then we were like, no,
and then we ran out of time.
Yeah, but then we were like, let's save it for the podcast and get kind of raw and real. So right now, if you haven't listened to our pricing episodes, we did a series of 3 where we talked to Patrick Campbell from Price Intelligently and Rob Walling and a bunch of other folks about what should our initial model be. And their suggestion was your primary cost center is downloads. Kind of. It's actually bandwidth, but downloads is a good proxy. And the primary value that your customers want is downloads. They want more listeners. They want influence. They want to connect with an audience. And, I know just from listening to our customers on chat that a lot of them are kind of aiming for, especially when they're starting a new show, 1,000 downloads per episode. Can't wait till I get to 1,000 downloads per episode. So that's what our pricing is based on right now. But we have tiers where you get X number of downloads per month per tier. Some folks said, I honestly think that is an impediment to people signing up. And yeah, what do you think about that? What's kind of your initial response?
I think that was sort of my concern going into that when we started it. Mm-hmm. It seems like we've had some concerns from people, not a lot. I mean, some people are like, what when I get to a number, do I get charged a bunch of money and I automatically upgraded? Like, it seems like that's not enough, but also, I mean, they don't have a show yet. Some of these people are looking to transfer, and they have a show, and what their audience is, and it would be quite a bit more expensive for them, I think, coming from where they're moving from.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I think you had even mentioned this prior to us recording, it's one of those things where like people will vote against, in America anyway, vote against their own best interests. So they vote for let's say the party that's going to give a bunch of tax cuts to the rich, and they want to be rich because that's the American dream, but they don't necessarily, I don't know, they're not there yet. Like, they're not going to get any benefit from it.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah. It's tricky. I think we definitely need to tweak our pricing.
Yeah.
And when I put myself in a customer mindset, I definitely understand that, even if you're starting a new show and you have no downloads, you eventually, if you said, well, you have the choice between getting 20,000 downloads and 500 downloads, I think most folks want 20,000 downloads. Yeah. And so even though you're not there yet, you still have this dream of getting there. And so you don't want to have this idea of a future tax if you get successful.
Right.
And so I think there is some tweaks we can do there. For example, we both have friends that have very successful podcasts that, they're looking at our tiers and they're like, well, you don't even have a tier for us. Like, we can't even.
Yeah. How do we? Yeah.
Get in there.
Where do we fit, and how are we going to afford to pay what you want to charge us based on downloads?
Yeah. Exactly. So, we're figuring that out. Now, I will say that the $19 a month plan for unlimited shows up to 5,000 downloads per month, a lot of people really like that, especially when they're exploring. They're creating, they create one show and then they're like, oh, I should create another show. And they might try 2, 3, 4, 5 shows.
Or they have archive shows that don't get a lot of downloads, but they want to keep it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think people seem to really like that. And I think I was even looking the other day. We have very few customers out of, let's see how many shows we have. And sorry, I see all these folks in the chat here. We actually have, Ben has a bunch of questions. Actually, while I'm looking this up, this is a good technical question. Does Transistor do streaming or just download? That's the first question.
Okay.
The second question is also from Ben. Is one download the same as 1 minute streamed?
Yes. And wait. The first question is, do we do streams or downloads? We do downloads. You can stream it. I mean, you can... I'll use Overcast as an example. You can play it in Overcast without downloading it to your phone, which would essentially be streaming it from the server. But it will buffer it way ahead, so it's going to download the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you only might play some of it.
So just to be clear, in our lexicon, a stream, quote unquote, is the same as a download.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what counts as a download? A lot of people ask that. Like if someone just downloads, if someone just streams on Overcast like 30 seconds,
yep.
Does that count as a download?
That it does. It counts as a download. Because we really currently do not have a way to know that they streamed or downloaded some or all of it. There's probably ways to figure that out. I will say that repeated streams or downloads from the same IP address and time of day are not counted twice. So you could technically, I could, let's say if I'm at work and I listen to the same episode twice in a row on a website within the same couple hours, it's not going to count as double downloads.
Yeah.
So it's a little tricky. I mean, downloads are initiating a file download on the internet. Like you can sometimes tell when it finished, but sometimes not. So
yeah.
Right now for us, the simplest metric is just a stream is a download, and I believe so. I've been working on the Spotify analytics that we can pull in from Spotify for the shows that use our Spotify integration, and they call them streams, but they don't indicate whether or not they were fully listened to or not.
Yeah.
So for them, a stream is a download, and for us, a download is a stream, and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. So and some podcast hosts use like plays. So a
listens,
download equals a play.
Plays or listen.
Wow, we're getting some live questions here that are interesting. Just to go backwards a bit, in terms of business model, we're still figuring this out. What does success look like for our customers? And, if we are the podcast hosting and analytics company for brands, for companies, for personal brands, what kind of success are they looking for? And, the answer is, it probably varies, but, I know, for example, Joe Workman, who has Weaver Radio, his goal is he's got a big kind of community of customers that buys Rapid Weaver add-ons from him. And the more he teaches them, the more value he gives them, the more income he earns. So every time he gives, he gets something back. And he does, free conferences, he'll do talks, he'll do blog posts. So for him, this is just one more way to serve the community he's already serving. And the more he invests in that, the more he gets back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he wants a reasonable number of downloads, I'm guessing. And actually, Joe, if you're listening, you can let us know if I'm kind of getting to it here or not. But I think everyone's got an idea of what kind of value they're looking for, and it's not always like every 500 downloads I get X number of revenue. Although some people might be like that. They just know, every time we increase the number of listeners we get, we increase the amount of Patreon income we get, or what have you. So, I think maybe we have to do more research there, basically, to figure that out. Is what value are they looking for, and are they getting that right now?
Mm-hmm. How does that fit into our pricing tiers? Are there different sets of features or features that we could segment out into other tiers that would provide different value for different sets of people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all on the table.
Yeah, just as a to give folks perspective here, we have very few out of the 286 shows we currently host. We have very few since we launched in January. Well, actually, we launched in August, but so we have very few since we did early access in January. We launched publicly in August. We have very few that are over 100,000 total downloads. And so most of our customers are still playing in a smaller space. And again, we've heard from some of them that are like, this is great. I think we talked about Nate, and he does a real estate podcast, and he, not a ton of listeners, but he's already gotten 2 clients out of it. And he's, he's happy as pie.
That's huge. Yeah. I mean, that pays for it probably 10, 20 times over, right?
So, yeah, maybe the answer is we need to do more research on that piece there. Yeah, so I think that's kind of our thinking right now as we're responding to that episode. It was great to get all that feedback. If you have more feedback you want to send us, just reach out on one of the channels. help@transistor.fm. That will get into our queue, right?
Support@transistor.fm.
Support.
We could alias that. Sure.
Support@transistor.fm. If you want to give us some feedback or reach out to us on Twitter, etc. I want to give John some time in the last few minutes here to do some app updates. So, and for any of you watching live, I'm going to show you the one thing I'm really excited about. But John, you go ahead and start talking.
So the biggest change that we rolled out a few days ago was this new integrations page or integrations tab within the dashboard. That sort of adds a couple new features and moves a couple other ones to this area, and we'll keep adding to it. So the idea is we have an integrations page. That's where you go to sort of connect your show to Spotify. It's where you go to connect your show to your mailing list or newsletter of choice that you use. And it also adds 2 new ones, which allows you to connect Transistor to Twitter, to your Twitter account, and your Google account, which allows you to, one, auto tweet an episode to your Twitter account as when it's published. So let's say you publish it, 10 a.m. It's going to tweet out around then, maybe a minute after. with a link to your show page.
Yep.
And with YouTube and Google, what you do is you sign in with your Google account, choose your YouTube channel that you want to sync with, and it will automatically publish your episode to YouTube. It'll convert the audio to a video file and add like a static background image that you can choose.
Yeah.
Add in the summary and a couple like another link to your web page, and that's kind of it. As for the integrations tab, YouTube is not live for everyone yet. I think we're going to test it out for us with this episode. Mm-hmm. So maybe by the time you hear this, it'll be live.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is our first iteration of this, so let us know if you have any feedback. Things like for auto tweeting, we don't allow you to edit the tweet yet, but it'd be cool to allow you to edit what's sent out, mm-hmm. And drop in like little placeholders for the name of the show, the name of the episode, a link to your episode. And same with YouTube. We have there's a limited amount of content you can put in the description, but you can link to certain things, and maybe we can allow some edits to that.
I'm super excited about this, and I posted a tease about it, and people were just equally ecstatic because
I hope people like it.
Yeah, I mean people already like the idea of it. So
the one thing that was surprising to me is that people listen to these things on YouTube. Yes. And I know people listen to music on YouTube a lot, but I just didn't realize that for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, and some folks, Joe Workman is another example of this. He had an existing audience that he'd built up on YouTube, and so he just wants to reach those people where they're at. And instead of getting them to subscribe on a different platform, he just wants to be able to say, hey, here's the episode already. And he's doing it manually. He's having to re-render. I think Curtis, what's Curtis? I don't know how to say his last name. Curtis McCall. He also said that was his response on Twitter was, oh, thank goodness. Now I don't have to render twice. Right.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like you're not uploading a motion video. It is it's a static background, but we could eventually do things like add in a slideshow or whatever. You can upload multiple images and tie together different things that maybe are timed to pieces of the show, something like that. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest, latest feature that we finished. A couple of other small ones that we rolled out. Another big one that's in the works that should actually be done pretty soon that I made some headway on is free SSL for everyone for their hosted websites with custom domains. So we're going to use Let's Encrypt to do that. So basically it's like you don't have to do anything. You point your custom domain to Transistor and it like auto generates an SSL certificate for you. So it's all encrypted in SSL all the way down. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, I am so excited about that. It's just like, that's just another one of those things that when WP Engine added that feature where you can just automatically add SSL and not have to pay for it. SSL certs used to be so much money. They used to always expire on people. And now Let's Encrypt has improved all of that. And if we can offer it for people for free, and now their podcast site, and you have to understand that podcast websites, I mean, in some ways, you could make an argument that you don't even need a blog. Just record your podcast, use Descript to automatically transcribe it, put the transcription in your show notes area, and now you've got a blog that also has an audio playback button.
Right.
And so to make that secure and just like any other website you would have makes sense, right?
Right. So that's cool. The other thing is Spotify Analytics, which we'll start pulling those into our system. So if you see a jump in your downloads and you use Transistor, that's probably why, because those are not in Transistor yet because they're external to our system, but we'll basically end up pulling in your Spotify analytics every day from the previous day.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll start showing up in like, the previous day's analytics.
Oh, that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
That's like one of those things. Once we can get more insight into these players, again, podcasting is always going to be open. It's always going to be on this open platform called RSS. But some of the players will share their data. And when they do, it can be helpful. It's interesting to know how far people listen and all that. So, yeah. Sweet. Well, there we go. Do you think I think we recaptured some of that magic?
So. Yeah, I think we did.
That we had before.
Yeah, it was a good comeback.
Good comeback. I've got to go pick up. I've got to drive my son to Army Cadets, so I got to end it here.
Okay.
But thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next Tuesday. Sorry this episode's late. We'll be back on track next Tuesday.
All right.
All right. Thanks everyone for showing up live. Ben wants to know, he says he would be curious to know how we're going to accomplish this SSL thing. He's currently working with fly.io to offer custom domains on the fly. He's curious how it would work with Let's Encrypt. Well, we're not offering custom domains yet.
We're not yet. I don't know what fly.io is. That sounds cool. No, it's we're going to use a web server called Caddy. I think we linked to it last week. CADDY.
Got service, I think. Let's see, is this right now? Caddy. What is it? Caddy.io?
I think it might be. Caddy server. I forget.
I'll find our show notes here.
Yeah, it handles all the communication between your server and Let's Encrypt and your DNS. I feel like it's a little bit of a magic. There's a little bit of a magic behind the scenes, but I have a friend who's been using it really successfully with another service he started up, and it's just like dead simple.
Yeah,
so
caddyserver.com.
Yeah, it handles all the renewals because I think Let's Encrypt certificates expire every 6 months.
Yeah,
but it just automatically renews them.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so Ben says he's seen that too. That would be
okay.
And just to be clear, we allow people to use custom domains for their Transistor website. So, some shows just use a subdomain on transistor.fm, but we do allow folks to, if they already have a domain, to use that. But this will allow us to do SSL on those custom domains, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Correct. So yeah, we don't offer the custom domains, although we could, but
yeah, that's another income stream.
Yeah, it is.
We've got Patreon, and we've got monthly recurring revenue, and
now we're a domain platform.
Domain platform too. Sometimes that's what happens: is the thing that was kind of like a secondary thing that becomes your main thing. Cool. All right, folks. Okay. I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for showing up live, and we'll see you next time.